And his response to me was, I send this correspondence pursuant to your request that I research the issue of the Financial Management Committee mandating the use of a time card system by each constitutional officer. I have completed my research, and upon completion of said research, contacted Mrs. Libby McCloskey with CTAS to obtain a second opinion concerning this matter. Both my research and the second opinion I received from Ms. McCloskey were consistent insofar as we do not feel the county commissioner nor any legislative body has the specific statutory authority to require the use of time card system by each constitutional officer. There does exist some authority in the statute as far as the adoption of financial management policies, as well as policies for maintaining compliance with the overtime provision of the Federal Wage Act. However, these provisions do not specifically grant the authority to mandate the use of a time clock system. Thus, absent specific granting of authority by statute, it would appear it would be the decision of the individual constitutional office holder whether to implement a time card system or continue with the written system as currently implemented by their office. That's sincerely, Keith Bowers, Jr. So with that, Ingrid?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
You know, I'm a little concerned. I wish we'd have had that earlier before the meeting to review all the members of the committee. My question is this. Who currently put together the time cards that are utilized in all constitutional officers? The offices. Who put that together?
Well, it said the state is very liberal in their discussion of this.
And I don't feel that that takes into account any of the scope and authority of the Financial Management Committee as far as the finance end of it and payroll end within the county.
Says the records must include personal information, the hour and date work week begins, the total hours worked each work day and each work week, total daily or weekly straight time earnings, regular hourly pay rate for any week when overtime is worked, and total overtime pay for the work week, deductions from and additions to wages, total wages paid for each pay period, and date of payment and pay period covered. Now this is taken from our county government handbook.
But as far as the Financial Management Committee, it doesn't make any mention at all of any review of statutes and the authority of this committee. This committee actually has a power that is outside that of the legislative body. Most of the items that are addressed here do not have to go for confirmation before the full commission. So, you know, I'd like to get a copy of that. I'd like to review it, and I'd like to
There's no problem with that.
also have Attorney Bowers look at the scope and authority of the Financial Management Committee. As I understand it, you know, they can make this committee is responsible for making any changes they feel fit and necessary to streamline and improve the overall efficiency of the financial department within this county. And that's outside the scope of the constitutional officers. So if I could get a copy of that afterwards, but it looks as if there'll be no real action taken on that day, and it's not actually even part of your agenda, but since you brought it up, I'd like to have that copy, please.
Well, since she's going to be reviewing the financial aspect of it, then, and that was under old business that we have been discussing, the pay and how we record it, how it's being recorded.
Here's some packets that I've put together as a result of the presentations that we received from each of the vendors. We're trying to get those. I just put together a little pros and cons sheet so that you all can have one. I didn't bring any extras for everybody else this time. If you look on the first page, that's the quick pros and cons for each vendor that we saw. And Bridge is our current vendor. It's on the far right-hand side. I don't think I need to go into any pros and cons there. You know where we're at on that. Bridge did come do a brief demonstration on Friday. There was 2 new pieces to their software. Neither piece seemed to be anywhere close to what the other ones were offering. I would be glad to give you a quick presentation if you need that. Local government. Everybody's been talking about how cheap local government is. That's where we want to go. I've done pros and cons on both of those. It is cheap in price, and that's the major advantage that we have with local government. They do provide support, which is something that we're lacking with Bridge. Several counties in the state of Tennessee have it, and we have had it in the past. The cons to local government. It was very outdated. For those of you that went through the presentation, it's still DOS-based. It was just basically what we have with support is what local government is. They have promised updates since the last time we went through this. We have yet to see those updates. And there's also no access outside the finance department. For those of you that went through presentations, you saw how office holders could access some of those programs from their office and not be required to come into my office. Local government does not provide that. Skyward is one of the ones that is in the middle of the price ranges. They have a broad range of access, meaning that office holders could get that if they wanted to from their desk. They could pull reports, they could do different things without coming to the finance department. It was very up to date. They have converted clients from Bridge. I'm talking to Sevier County right now, Sevier County Schools. They've gone from Bridge to Skyward. They do provide support. They also have regional meetings, user conferences, stuff like that, so that would help us there. A downside of that, it is more expensive. It will require us to host it or to have someone to host it, and I'll get into that in just a minute. And they have only done schools in the past. They have never done a total package county, which would mean the county side and the school side. They focused on schools, and that's what they've done. Now that being said, and I've told you all this, if they can handle schools, I'm very confident they can handle the county side. It's basically a chart of accounts issue. You just do a different report. The schools have to do some serious reporting. And for those of you from the schools, you're aware of that. They report lots of things that the county side does not have to report. So if they can handle that, I know they can handle the county. Tyler or Munis. Tyler is the company, Munis is the software package. So you'll hear me kind of cross-reference that. It seemed to be very user-friendly. They had an advanced document imaging system. We could put a barcode on everything, scan it, and it would automatically throw it into the separate files for us. They do provide support, and they also have that broad range of access. The pricing was on the con side. It was one of the higher priced ones. It will require us to host it or to have it hosted, and again, I'll get to that in just a second. And when I spoke to the information systems auditor, he kind of gave it a negative review, and I'll tell you about that in just a second as well. New World was the most expensive one that we had. It was up to date. It had decent reporting, and you could access it outside the finance department. However, it had virtually no payroll system whatsoever. We would be required to get a third party to do our payroll. That wasn't exactly what we were looking for. So the major con is that it was very expensive. On the back of that page, you will see a quick sheet that John has put together for us. All but local government and Bridge, obviously, require us to host this site. It's kind of like a web-based program. So we'll have to fix our server accordingly. And these are the prices that he has got, and he's tried to do his best to get the lowest price possible for those. But you'll see this is a one-time cost just to get our system up and running. And this is basically the same for Skyward or Tyler and Munis. You'll see that. Now if we were to go to a third party and have them host it, he has that quote down there as well. And they have quoted about $1,700 per month. So that will be another expense that will be added on to that. But I just want to make you aware that will be there. So that's when it says the cost to host, that's what you're looking at. In the back, you see a series of emails. I emailed every finance director that is in 81 Act County to see what they use, because we are obviously interested in 81 Act County since we are one. You will see their responses. The majority of them did use local government, but you'll also see their responses to local government there. Some of them are not satisfied. They're ready to switch anytime we are, so they kind of want to piggyback on our spreadsheets and everything that we have that we've done together. We all sit through some presentations and it was very lengthy. They want to try to skip that if they can, just to get the details. So you'll see that. You'll also see that, I think it's the last one. The last one is from Doug Sandage. He is the IS auditor for the middle eastern part of Tennessee. Skyward has actually converted Sevier County schools from Bridge. So I wanted to see what he thought about that. And you can see his comments there. I also talked to Greg, who is the information systems auditor for us. And I asked him if he had any experience with these. His experience with Tyler was, and this is how we got the negative review from him, anyone can update or delete. And that may not mean a whole lot to you, but when I process a batch or I process a payroll, I have to update that to the general ledger. Right now we have restricted access to that. Only certain people can update, and then only I can delete that function. So if somebody does something incorrectly, let's say we misprocess on the wrong date or something, only I can delete that. This program does not have that function to separate that. So if anybody processes, they can delete. And there's no trail there. So that's a major issue with audit. His response to me was they mainly do municipalities. The municipalities are audited differently than we are. And when he presented that request to them, they weren't eager to change it because they didn't have a lot of county vendors. So it wasn't high on their priority list. However, as far as not working, I haven't got that on any of them. Any system will work for our government. But there's pros and cons to each, obviously. So I just want to put that together, give it to you, let you see what that is. We all sit through presentations, the majority of us do. So if you have any, I have some material here that they left, if anybody wants that, you can get that. That's from the Tyler, Skyward, and New World. So if you want those, you're more than welcome to have those. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have for me.
So, am I understanding you correctly? And of course, Bridge is what we currently have. Local government, if we were to go that option, basically what we have now. No
With
gain.
support.
Yeah, with support. So you're paying for support. But as far as the overall quality of the product, the accessibility of it, the scope is very narrow. No better off than what we are now. So with that, it just seems to make sense to me. If Bridge is not acceptable, local government would not be acceptable.
Local government will suffice. However, you're not making any improvements except for you're getting support.
But yet it's going to cost a substantial amount of money to bring this on. Okay. So
I don't disagree, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ingrid, I think one of the reasons Bridge is not acceptable right now is because of the uncertainty of the existence of the company.
That's correct. Now, our software is very out of date. There's lots of reports that I would like to have that I do not have. It's not very user-friendly. However, it does suffice. And local government would be the same way. It does suffice. My main concern with Bridge is they will close the doors one day and we won't have a system. That's not the case with any of these other ones. They are very sound, large companies. Bridge is a local company, and that's kind of what happens when you use a local company. It's not used across the state.
Which, Ingrid, which of these programs would best suit the needs of the finance department?
I'm kind of stuck between Tyler and Skyward right now. I'm trying to get auditor reviews so that I can make sure we're okay. Everything looks great when you go to a presentation, except for one that wasn't really good at their presentation. But you know, they show you all the bells and whistles, but they don't show you all the traps and downfalls. That's why I have tried to talk to people that are using it. We have talked to a couple, but I would like to talk a little bit more to auditors because they're the ones that really know what needs to be there and what doesn't. So I have gotten a couple that, now no one has audited Skyward yet in Tennessee that I've contacted. So I don't really know. He's going to do that this year, but he's not made it to that part yet. So I'm kind of tossing them up between, if price wasn't an option, that would be my top two.
And what we found out too is that these would also suffice with our equipment, our fixed assets. Whenever they're purchased, it'll automatically spit out a barcode to go on that piece of equipment, as well as making a barcode on all of the records that pertain to that particular piece of equipment or fixed asset.
Madam Chairman, I didn't get to sit in on this last set of presentations. However, if memory serves me correctly, Skyward, their program offered a very broad range of access, which would take quite a bit of load off of you direct. Now, many office holders, commissioners, everybody comes in wanting information, where at least with Skyward, we could have access to most of that right there at our desk.
Everyone except for local government and bridge offers that wide range of access. That's why it says broad
So,
range of access in all three programs.
My only comment is, if we're going to spend money to put in a system, we need to at least advance beyond where we are now. And it appears that local government will not help us advance to any level beyond. It's the same things what we've got as with bridge. So, in considerations based on the data you have today, and I don't think you have enough information to actually make a decision by this committee. I think you need to do some more research, but it looks like it's going to be somewhere between those two, Skylar and Tyler.